guys? Aquanair back with another video, and it is finally here. The long-awaited Sleepy Hollow album, Boy Meets World. Sleepy Hollow has had one of the best rollouts this year with Pain Talk, Get Back Dane, and Good Girls Don't Have Fun. The hype around this album, at least for me, has been really, really high. I've been really looking forward to this. And Sleepy Hollow is one of the most interesting artists that we have in New York today. And I'm here to say that, I'll get into it, but overall, he absolutely delivered in a major way with this. So, yeah, let's get into it. First off, the writing. So, this, I'm going to go ahead and give a great. And it's for a couple of reasons. So, I think for me, there's a lot of different ways to be a great writer, and I think for me, what Sleepy does is he does a little bit of everything. He's got a diverse set of performances where he talks about plenty of different topics, getting into his anxiety, getting into his relationships with women and whether they're successful or whether they fail, talking about his emotional state through those relationships and what are the barriers that he personally struggles with that makes it harder for him to connect with romantic partners, as well as the mindset that goes into being as big of a sort of in the streets kind of guy that he really is. And so, as well as there's just a lot of personal stories and difficulties that he gets into on these records. And so overall that was really on display, but on top of that he had a lot of witty, cool punchlines that were really, really cool. I'm just mad because I missed Uber You Gotta Get Lift. That was really, really cool. I think the song was Anxiety, where he had the count up. That was really, really impressive. And overall, the amount of fun, catchy, quotable lyrics. Of course, you had the On the Radar freestyle that he decided to put on this, one of the strongest freestyles of this year, and that was rife with bars. Never Had Me. I would smack him like Will. I'm gonna smack him, and I got me a Smith and something like that. I reacted to it. But he had a plethora of cool, witty lines on here as well. That were also super, super good. So he had both this substantive aspect, this just from a good writing perspective aspect, but also these good raps that were really, really good. The only, I think, two knocks for me is, and you're going to see this as a reoccurring theme, is that as you get deeper and deeper into the project, the themes and messaging do get somewhat repetitive at times. Especially with it being an 18-song album, and song themes begin to blend into each other, and even rhyme patterns such as I make her wetter and stuff like that begin to become more and more prevalent and begin to show sort of him stretching himself a little too thin from a pen perspective. So yeah, definitely the repetition at a point got to be a lot. And then as well that he, don't get me wrong, he had really good lines, but they weren't fibers splitting ridiculous bars or insane rhyme scheme wordplays. It was just catchy lines, which is still respectable, but it's just the reason why I don't have him in either an amazing or a perfect. Going into the flows, and this is something that I am going to put, I think I'll go with great for now. There was so many diverse performances on here, from the quicker flows you saw on Get Back Gang and Anxiety to the more sing-songy flows that you saw on Self-Control and Purple Hearts. He really was able to give you a dynamic group of performances with this, and overall, his very deep, intense, and somber delivery really plays into the production that he has throughout. But even though he's got this very deep sort of, some could call it monotone delivery, he keeps you entertained with his different flow patterns. And that ability to, again, be both cohesive while also being dynamic is something that I think really is his strong suit on this album. And so, yeah, I talked about it a little bit in the flow section, but now we have to get into my favorite part of this record easily, which was the production. And this is where we get into the title. Sleepy Hallow has made his own style of music. I do not care. I am patenting it, drill soul. He made drill soul today or yesterday. He's officially created that genre. He was always sort of inching towards, engaging with a lot of samples and things of that nature. But on this album, you get these vocal samples that are beautifully implemented into the production and make it seamless, and give this like raw and vulnerable feeling to all of his music. And the soul is the vocal samples are chopped and played with enough to where it feels like a cohesive part of the beat rather than a plastered on please like me kind of cheap sample. You see this on things like Anxiety, where that doom 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 like that it was just the only part of the sample was the strumming, right? Or you'll have Pain Talk with which I talked about, when in my reaction, but it's one of the best. The way that, like the way that sample comes in is amazing. Even Good Girls Don't Want to Have Fun, which is the song I initially slept on, has a really, really good sample implementation as well. What's it called? Motion as well. And Motion gets into another thing that I really liked about this project. And I have a friend of mine who talked to me about how he feels like the samples carry the production. And I see where he's coming from, but I think I have to disagree. And that's when we get into a song like Motion, because or a song like Damn, where it's not just that the sample is fire, but there is progression to these beats, right? You see a song like Motion, you start with just the regular drill shit, then you get into the guitar instrumentation, and then you get into the that looping vocal sample. But the fact that you had these three stages to the beat and it built on itself really made it such an incredible piece of music for me. And Damn is the same thing. I really have been enjoying this this ushering in of the house sound as I was never really exposed to it. And I think that Beyonce really set a precedent. Obviously, Uzi did his thing with Just Wanna Rock, and Coi Leray had her whole album with dance sounds and house sounds and all kinds of different dance music that was awesome. I think what I love is that like the way that he brings in the Bed Creeks, the way that he brings in the 808, those soft 808 hits, it doesn't all come at once. And so you get to sort of be introduced to this entire tapestry of a production rather than just boom, here's the entire beat, right? But it's still complex enough to when you get to the final product, you're still amazed. So much quality on this. There was also like a decent amount of diversity in terms of like what moods there were. Of course, you had your sample songs like a Pain Talk or a Die Young, but then you also had your acoustic songs, you know what I'm saying, like Emotion, like an Anxiety. You had your acoustic songs like an All the Way, which was another amazing highlight. But then you have Get Back Gang and On the Radar Freestyle, which are like these more punchy, more hit-oriented productions. And so, you have some excitement, you have some chill, and then you have some vulnerable. So you have these different moods that you have throughout the album. One of the things I did want to mention in the flow section, my bad, is I don't know what was going on with Cash Cow, but Cash Cow was one of the most disappointing songs for me because like it's a song that like was really good on its own and then like was mixed pretty weird to me. I don't want to say it's terrible because I can tell that it was like made to be like that, but I just really wasn't a big fan of the way that that song was mixed, and sort of his voice on that song specifically. And then going into the production, while I did love a lot of what was happening with the production, again, because of the length of the album, it did tend to feel there was sometimes some overlap. Songs like I think "Goodbye" and "ADHD" definitely I think didn't really offer much for me. "Goodbye" was just a little there was just a little bit too much happening. It didn't fully work, and "ADHD" was the opposite. It just felt kind of hollow. And so it was again. There was a couple of because of the length of the album. There was a lot of there was some repeats, as well as like the worst. I don't know what this song was. I don't know what they were thinking when they did this, but like Perky Man, like I don't know what they were thinking with that song. I don't know what audience they were trying to appeal to. I don't know what they were doing. But it was a nah. It was a nah. It was nah. It was a no-go. And it was just production that Sleepy did not feel comfortable on. The chorus was pretty terrible. And it overall just didn't even fit the mold of the album in pretty much any way whatsoever. Now, I will say this. This is my caveat. I was talking to my mans about this, right? If that song blows up, I will allow it. I will allow it. As trash as that song is to me, if that song blows up, I'm gonna give it to him because he, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, he putting this on for the mainstream, but that song is awful in my opinion. But other than that, like I said, other than those three songs, "Goodbye," "ADHD," and "Perky Man," the production was pretty impeccable in my opinion and was really groundbreaking in the way that it infused acoustic guitars, soul music, and just vocal samples, as well as drill hits. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm patenting it. Bryson Tiller got trap soul. We got drill soul. All right. Jack Harlow, take notes. This is how you do a soul album. God damn it. And so yeah, no, that was really, really cool. Musical execution, again, amazing. The choruses on here were actually incredible. His vocal tone made for such a smooth listen. The production, as I said, was really good, and the way that it worked with his voice to make this somber, very deep and emotional album was absolutely incredible. And you could really feel the pain through what he was saying. And I also think that there was a lot of music to take off of this song. I know me personally, I'm definitely taking Motion, Anxiety, Pain Talk, Get Back Gang, On the Radar Freestyle. Like the majority, this is one of those where like the majority of the album I'm probably going to take with me in one form or another. As well as the diverse performances. Like the fact that he did all of that and then came out with like Self-Control and Purple Hearts at the end, like that's impressive. And you know, unfortunately, I don't like to end on like a bad note, but unfortunately, I'm gonna end on the features, which I'm gonna have to give a mid. Unfortunately, that was definitely the worst part of this album for me. Was the features. I think that you know the features on Perky Man, and just what was happening on that song, sort of cancels out. Like you know, if Perky Man is like bad, then the amazing Doechii feature, like I think those two kind of cancel out, like the highs and the lows. But the Doechii feature was absolutely amazing. Her vocals, the chorus in general, was absolutely incredible. So you have the high and you have the low, and then after that we get into Fabio Foreign, who sounded extremely awkward on a love song where I don't even know like why he was on a song like that, given like you know what Favi's features are generally known for. Then you had Tata with one of the worst choruses like on the album. No, like pretty much the worst chorus on the album, maybe besides Perky Man. and a severe dip in quality with the auto tune that was like very apparent and automated and ugly, as well as a feature verse that was like he was screaming and like uh the love, it was a more lovey-dovey track, and so with songs like that generally your vocal tone should match what you're saying. And while I can appreciate that he maybe dimmed it down as opposed to other verses that I've heard people in his stylistic group give, it was still like this forceful yelling that I've just never been a fan of, especially not when you're trying to talk about how you're serenading somebody. It was just not hitting. The feature on Die Young was of course really good. That song came out a while ago, and that was of course fire. Marshmallow on Get Back Gang was pretty good. So there was some quality here and there, but overall, I think the features were pretty underwhelming in my opinion. And the main, like, especially like the main rappers like Tata and Favi, really did not deliver in my opinion. Thankfully, there were 18 songs, most of which didn't have a feature, and so therefore, like, it didn't really affect the overall listening experience all that much. And overall, this was a great, great project. I am really impressed with this, and this is definitely going. This I would be shocked if this was not in the top 10 of this coming year. And yeah, that being said, I do really wish that the album was cut down a bit. Definitely could have held the Favi song and the Tata song, as well as Perky Man and Goodbye. And I think this could have been truly an amazing album. And so while I do love this album and I think it's great, and I absolutely see this top 10 this year so far, probably in general, I don't see it getting knocked out of the top 10. I do, there is this longing for, like, man, I wish the album wasn't as long as it was.
So I've been thinking about experimenting with different kinds of review styles. And one thing I decided to add because I thought it was important for this album would be a quick tier list because I didn't really talk about every single song on the album. So starting out, we have Peak Sleepy. These are the songs where if he cut out the rest of the album and had these songs, this would be a classic album, no doubt. You see, we have stuff like Get Back Gang, Motion, All the Way, and Anxiety. Good Girls Gone Bad was on the edge, but I really like how that sample hits, and that verse is really, really good. Next up, we have the songs that I don't really mind, but just don't really add much to the album. We have Purple Hearts, ADHD, which sort of just bled into the monotony, and Purple Hearts, which just sort of bled into the monotony of it. And then the underwhelming features that I mentioned, such as BWV and For You. And then we have the song that should not have ever existed in life unless this thing blows up, that being Perky Man.
With that being said, I really hope y'all enjoyed this review. I was really excited to get into this album, and this is something that I'm super passionate about because I think that Sleepy is really at the peak of artistic evolution and quality when it comes to new music. With that being said, peace, y'all.